Good day, fellow Jersey nerds, and welcome to episode 71 of the Jersey Nerds podcast, powered by HockeyJerseyConcepts.com. I'm your host, Ryan, and today on the Nerdcast, it's the Sixcast, because we got two Toronto fans here, two guys who have resided in Toronto, Ryan and Shawn coming at you, and today's topic is planning a 5-game road trip to current NHL arenas that we would like to go see. As I mentioned, joining me for the Sixcast, Shawn. Shawn, what's going on?
To all things great in Toronto, you shout out to my boy Drake, rocking the 1999-2000 one and only, probably only, Jonas Höglander Leafs away jersey. Yes, this is when whites were the homes, and I got to tell you, I love these rounded numbers. 14 has no rounded numbers in it, but if it were 30, for example, you would see some pretty rounded numbers.
Those late 90s Toronto numbers, we've touched on it a couple times, but those late 90s Toronto numbers, they're so dated, but it's not like it. I don't think it's a blemish. I always enjoyed them when the Leafs had them, and I always thought the 4 or 5 seasons that they lasted was appropriate. And then when the change came, that was great. You know, I always thought they stayed for the perfect amount of time.
That was 3 years, 1997 to 2000. What a perfect time for you to get out your odd design choice and just at the turn of the millennium, just let it go. Just be like, all right, we're done. We're time to be normal again.
There was clear indications that font on the Maple Leafs jerseys of the late 90s there was long-term plans for it because the Leafs were using it when they opened the Air Canada Centre, Scotiabank Arena, and so much so that font is still seen around the arenas as far as section headers uses that font, gates that you enter use that font, all the banners that were originally the Stanley Cup banners and the retired player banners that were originally in the stadium were in that font. It wasn't until about 3 years ago that they changed them out and got new banners. But I mean, everything, even there's still things in that stadium, lots of things that use that font. So there were definitely long-term plans for it to stick around. And then I remember they made the switch to a stylized but still a block font, and they put silver on the white jerseys around the numbers. And it was before the era of HD TV, and it was not picking it up. You had to have a jersey to know it was there.
You know what's funny is that was what was on the TML patch. You know, your favorite logo in Toronto history. And you're very right about that. Those of you who don't remember what life was like before 2007, let me tell you, CRTs made it so if you were watching an old hockey game from the mid-'80s, it almost looked the same as it did in like 2005. It was weird. And watching a Leafs game, you did not know that there was silver on the jersey.
CBC's first HD broadcast was not until the final of the 2004 World Cup. So the entire tournament was in standard definition, and then it was this big production because the final game, Canada-Finland, was in HD. Oh my goodness. And that I don't even know if they even started the next season of Hockey Night in Canada in
They
HD.
didn't. I don't even think they did until like Edge took over fully for them to do full year-long broadcasts.
Yeah,
of HD games. I remember getting HD TV, for God's sake.
And then it wasn't even all of the Saturday broadcasts. It was just the big ones like Toronto, Montreal, Boston. Those kind of matchups were just the HD. It took a while for everything to be in HD. And now 4K. Why not, right? We don't even see in 4K, but why not shell out for the 4K?
I know for one, I'm going to be paying. If I were a Senators fan, you're looking at, your team's got 52 points. Shell out for that 4K so you can watch who's that guy again not score.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. I know Bobby Ryan, unless his hand is hurt. Then I don't know anyone on the team. But I don't think I would want to watch that tire fire in 4K.
All their statistics leaders are no longer on the team except for Thomas Chabot.
And he's on the team. He doesn't necessarily want to be on the team. And who knows for how long he'll be on the team. I mean, just wait for his contract to come up, right? And then Ottawa can't afford him. See you later, Thomas Chabot, and any other player coming down the pike. All right, well, we might as well get into it. Today's topic is the 5-game road trip based on NHL arenas that we want to visit. We'll have that when we come right back. This is the HJC Podcast Network. New shows every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. All right, so we're talking about a 5-game road trip. It doesn't necessarily have to be following around your favorite team, but these are 5 arenas that we want to visit. You want to make your road trip somewhat logical. So saying you're going to spend the first day in New York, second day in Los Angeles, and third day in Minnesota really doesn't make sense. So you want it to have some flow across North America. But before we get into arenas that we want to go to, Shawn, what arenas, NHL arenas, have you been to?
I have been to the former Air Canada Centre, aka Scotiabank Arena, many a time when I did live in the Toronto area. I have been to the Saddle Dome out in Calgary. That's actually a very nice arena despite its datedness. And I have been to the outside of Buffalo's current digs, which are currently called
KeyBank.
Thank you.
I think they're on their 5th name.
First Niagara, whatever, the Odd, not the Odd.
What it started as Marine Midland Arena back in the 90s. And then it was HSBC Arena. I remember that. And then First Niagara. Yeah. And now I think we're on KeyBank. So it's them in Ottawa. I think the stadiums have had 4 names. Ottawa was the Palladium, Corral Center, something else, and then Canadian Tire Center.
My personal favorite.
It was Scotiabank Center, of course.
Yeah. My personal favorite was the former name of Nashville's arena.
The Gaylord Entertainment Center.
The Gaylord Entertainment Center, because I'm like 10.
Well, I think we can all picture. I mean, this is probably incredibly ignorant, but I'm sure we're all picturing it. A few gay guys showing up to the arena and just, this is not what we expected.
Boo.
This is not what we came here for. As far as arenas I've been to, Maple Leaf Gardens, I went many times to Maple Leaf Gardens. It'll always hold a special place for me. I've been to Scotiabank Arena. Actually, I've never been to Scotiabank Arena for a Leafs game while it was under that name. So I've been to Air Canada Centre. I've been out to Ottawa for their arena in the middle of nowhere. I guess it was Canadian. No, it was Scotiabank Center at the time. I've been to Boston, TD Bank North Garden or whatever it was called. Buffalo when it was HSBC. Montreal, what's that? That's been the Bell Center. Oh, it was the Molson Center before it was the Bell Center. So that's I don't think I've been to too many other places. I've been to the Saddle Dome, but just like you've been outside Buffalo. I've been outside the Saddle Dome.
I was at the Saddle Dome for the 2009 Grey Cup festivities. So I saw a concert of a bunch of bands I couldn't care less about, including Great Big Sea.
I think I would go see a concert of bands that I don't care about just to get into an NHL arena, to take a look around.
Exactly.
Yeah. I've gone to see figure skating many times at the Canadian National Exhibition just to get into Ricoh Coliseum where the Marlies play. So, all right. Well, that's where we've been. Now let's talk about where we want to be. And so essentially what the idea here is you're planning a 5-game road trip and you want it to make some sense. So I'll start us off, and I'll start me off with my first 2 dates. And just because of the history, and I feel like I have to see it, I'd head down to New York, and I got to check out Madison Square Garden. And I think I'd like to see the Leafs play the Rangers, but alternatively, I'd like to see the Islanders play the Rangers, and just to hear if it really gets that heated and how much they hate each other. But also just for the history of being in Madison Square Garden. And I want to check out the massive renovations they did several years ago just to see what it looks like. So Madison Square Garden would be my first stop. And then I'd swing on over to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. There's something that draws me to that city. So naturally, it might be Sidney Crosby. I don't know. So naturally, I'd want to see a game at PPG Paints Arena. It looks like a really cool arena. The rows of black and gold seats looks really cool. From what I understand, when they built it, it was fantastic. So just to see what a mega new arena would look like, I'd want to hit up Pittsburgh. Shawn, what would be your first two stops?
My first stop would actually be the NHL's newest stop. I really want to see T-Mobile Arena. And who would I like to see the Knights play? That's a tough one. I'm going to go with the Jets, mainly because I would like to see them actually win a game in Vegas for one. But yeah, it looks like a fun, exciting arena. I've never been a fan of their opening shows. I find them hokey, but at the same time, I really want to see one of these damn things. It's an experience. And the second stop would be to cross into my favorite state, Arizona, and go to Gila River Arena and be one of the 16 fans to go see the decent Coyotes. And if I had to see the Coyotes play someone, I'd actually like to see them play, of all teams, the Flyers.
Why is that?
Jeremy Roenick.
Oh. I was thinking about putting the Flyers on my list. I don't know if I
just want to meet Gritty.
I do want to meet Gritty. That would be fantastic. But also I want to understand how vicious it gets in there. Like, I would want to wear the road team's jersey and I would have to get some liquid courage in me, but I want to understand if the Flyers fans are going to get inappropriate there, because from my understanding, it gets pretty rough in Philadelphia, and there's certain lines that are pushed and crossed, and maybe it's accepted if they're crossed. But I guess Philadelphia is an honorary mention, because my third stop would be Minnesota, because from what I hear, this arena is decorated fantastically. Lots of kind of nature scenes, lots of use of wood in the arena, and the arena is really nice, very hockey focused. I think the Timberwolves actually have their own arena in Minnesota, don't they?
The Target Center, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So that's a hockey focused arena. So that would be really, really interesting to go to Minnesota and check that out. They could play anybody, because Minnesota's uniforms are awesome. It sounds like the arena is awesome, so that would more than be enough for the price of admission. My fourth stop would be, I gotta go see Winnipeg, preferably for a playoff game. Hit up the Bell MTS Center, be part of the whiteout. If it wasn't a playoff game, that's okay, but playoff game would be ideal in Winnipeg. How about you, Shawn?
My third stop, when you mentioned history, this is fairly recent history, but at this point, we're coming up on 20 years. Growing up when I did, there are very few more legendary names than the late 90s, early 2000s Colorado Avalanche. I would love to go to the Pepsi Center, where that 2001 team, that was arguably better than the 96 team, just destroyed and won that Stanley Cup, where Ray Bourque lifted his first cup. Colorado, despite their 15 years or so of being mediocre, just has such a place in a certain generation of hockey fan. I own one of their 1996 Cup jerseys for that reason. I have to go see that banner. I just want to see what all this hype is about. For my fourth stop, I'm not going to go see the Jets? I have to go see a favorite team, go to the smallest arena in the NHL. I really want to see what it's like to go to an NHL stadium that is at the bottom of the league in attendance, but in terms of percentage-wise, is second.
Yeah, capacity,
or
definitely.
third.
Yeah. Well, I think they got to still be sold out on season tickets. Why
they
wouldn't
are?
Yeah,
why
wouldn't they?
The only teams that pump more fans in are Minnesota and Chicago. Percentage-wise.
Yes, absolutely. I think, and I mean, there's lots of teams that sit above 100% capacity, like Winnipeg, Leafs, Montreal, the Rangers, Minnesota, as you mentioned, Chicago. They all sit above 100% capacity. There may be another team or two there, maybe some Canadian teams. Not looking at you, Ottawa, because you sit well below.
They're at the when Carolina passes you got some work to do.
They removed seats to try to get to 100%, and Ottawa still couldn't. Friggin' gong show. Okay, so picture this. If you want to go to Ottawa and you live in the city of Ottawa, you want to go see the Senators, you're driving against traffic. Like everyone's coming home from work, and you're going the other way to go out to the game. Now, once you get there and you see the game, that's fine. But now you have 14,000 fans who also want to leave the game at the same time. Here's the great part. All of the parking lots that surround the arena, because you have to drive there or you can take the bus, but all of the parking lots funnel in to one road, and the road is 2 lanes. So they get 14,000 people out of the middle of nowhere on a 2-lane road. And guess what? If you take the bus there, it has to use the same road.
Canada, Ontario. If you were taking a tour of Parliament Hill and they have the little lookouts near the Library of Parliament, you can just barely see where, not the arena, but you can see where Canada is. Like, and the thing about Ottawa is it's not like the Toronto area where it's a big cluster. It's like there you drive 15 minutes outside of like the general Ottawa sort of boundaries, and it's the sticks.
Yeah,
Ottawa is Ottawa, and then there's Orleans, and then there's Renfrew, and these are big places. Like this is rural living, and then there's Canada. Like just build the friggin' arena in Ottawa for goodness sakes, and you might get some fans.
There's a highway that runs, a freeway that runs by the stadium. There's a couple. It's very flat land. There's a couple car dealerships. There's like a Hampton Inn, like a 5-story Hampton Inn. There's one strip mall, and then the rest is just farmland. And that's where the Ottawa Senators play. And it just must be really inspiring. Like you really must feel like you're in the NHL. Road trips probably don't bother the Senators because they go on the road, and now they're living the life of luxury. Home games are the tough ones.
The CFL team plays in the city, like downtown.
Yeah, at a really nice spot.
It's a beautiful field. Build one right next to it. Lansdowne Park is fantastic.
And the 67s, the OHL team, I mean, that's a weird arena, but still, they play in the downtown area. So, I mean, whatever. Ottawa, you're a gong show. You're not on the list at all whatsoever.
No.
All right, let's get to our 5th and final spot. You've already mentioned this, but I also would love to go to Vegas now at this point. They've made it such a spectacle, like you mentioned. Got to go see the Hokie show. Got to go talk to local people to find out what they think about the whole experience. And then I also want to talk to those people and find out when the novelty wears off, when Vegas isn't so good. Are the people still there to still come in? Because from what I understand, it's not people from around the strip. It's not people who work on the strip. It's not a lot of tourists. It's a lot of people who actually live in Vegas outside of the strip that enjoy coming to the games. And because I have never been to Vegas, but from what I understand, it comes alive after the games. So it's kind of like you go to the Vegas Golden Knights game kind of as an appetizer for your evening, and that starts off your evening. Then you hit the strip and have a great time. So I need to get to Vegas for my number 5 on my road trip.
For me, number 5 is going to be pretty typical here, especially, again, in recent history. I have to go to Bridgestone Arena, and I have to see the Preds and Jets play some of the best hockey you're going to see in the NHL right now. Bridgestone Arena is lively, especially in the playoffs. to anybody who had tickets during that conference semifinal series between Nashville and Winnipeg, you witnessed some of the best hockey. You witnessed a clean version of what Detroit and Colorado had in the mid-90s. You witnessed some of the best hockey, and I got to go see that. Not only that, it's a nice arena. An honorable mention is going to be Nassau Coliseum for the history, in a similar vein to Madison Square Garden, but I mean 4 straight Stanley Cups. Like, come on, that's pretty cool. I've also never been to anywhere in New York, and, I've always had a little bit of fondness for the Islanders, maybe misplaced. Definitely misplaced.
We've discussed Ottawa, and it's not really a desirable destination, but you had Arizona on your list, and for me, that's just a joke of a franchise, and there's really no draw for me there at all. Even to go see a sparse crowd, there's no draw for me whatsoever. So that might be like a no-fly zone for me, like an arena that I just have no desire to go see. Same with Anaheim. I'd rather go see LA in the Staples Center, and Anaheim is just like, why go out there? Like, I'd rather go to Disneyland than go see Anaheim Stadium. So I don't know, Shawn, do you have any stadiums that you just no interest in going to whatsoever?
Stadium specifically, Rogers Place in Edmonton, because the Rexall Arena had so much history in it. Like, when I was a kid, I remember seeing Dwayne Rolison just one win away from that surprise Stanley Cup. You had the stuff that Gretzky did, and Messier and all them. So much history in that building. And to see where that franchise has gone, despite the fact that McDavid and Draisaitl are 2 of the best players in the NHL, I just couldn't bring myself to go there. There's also, it's weird because you got arenas like, Nationwide and Prudential Center where it's like, would I go out of my way to go there? No. But if I were in the area, oh, hell yeah. Same with Little Caesars. I mean, losing Joe Louis, I can't. It's just, again, so much history in Joe Louis, gone now. It's not the same. But if there was one arena I would never go to, or maybe I would just for the train wreck that it is, see a hockey game at the Barclays Center, just so I could say I've seen a hockey game at the Barclays Center and live to talk about it. See that off-center jumbotron, the car in the corner, that takes up like something like 200 seats.
The empty seats?
Total. Yep, the empty seats.
Sit in that end zone where you can't see the net down below you?
Sit in a basketball arena to watch a hockey game. You know what? I'm going to put the Barclays Center. Again, good for the Brooklyn Nets. They got a very nice basketball arena. But the Islanders really screwed the pooch on that one.
Columbus might be a place that I have no interest in, but I would like to kind of go see the cannon, the goal cannon.
Yeah.
So that might be okay. See, I'd like to go see Little Caesars Arena. I think it's kind of interesting how they did it up, so I would like to go see that. Going back to Edmonton, have they torn down Northlands Coliseum, Rexall Place?
Yes.
They tore it down, eh? Okay.
Yeah, that's gone.
Wow, that's unfortunate.
It should be gone, anyways, from what I know.
Yeah.
Seattle Center Arena. I'm sorry, the Key Arena at Seattle Center.
That'll be interesting to see. I mean,
I would not like to go to it now because from what I know back in the day, hearing about the Supersonics, that was a dump.
So it'll be interesting. That will be the interesting part, to see what it looks like. If it's just kind of a facade, right? Like, oh, this could be really nice, but we had to fit it into this tiny cramped space, or if they're really going to do it upright. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, Key Arena isn't even that old, by the way. It was built in the mid-90s.
Oh my goodness.
1995, because the Supersonics played out of the Seattle Center Coliseum and the King Dome, and then later in the Tacoma Dome before Key Arena. They only played 13 years in the Key Arena. At this point, the Leafs have played in what was formerly the ACC for almost 20 years.
20 years.
If not 20 years.
Yep.
20 years. And the ACC feels far from dated.
It does, but the ACC Scotiabank Arena, it felt like it could have had so much more life, but instead it's a generic arena. Like the only,
It really is.
yeah, the only thing unique about it is, and this has always been for the Leafs, is kind of the colored seats, the sections of colored seats. So it was like that in the Gardens, where the golds were the fronts, then reds, then you had greens, and then you had grays and blues at the end. And we still have the blues at the end at the Air Canada Centre or Scotiabank Arena, whatever. And golds and reds had just been pushed back because you gotta have the platinums. You gotta have those spaces for people not to occupy.
The jersey free zone.
It's a jersey free zone. Yeah, you have to have your top button done up if you want to sit in the platinums. And don't even think about coming back for the beginning of the period or staying for the entire game. You can't do that either. That's not allowed. So to run down our lists here of stadiums, our 5-game road trip, and this would be a really interesting road trip to try and get all these miles in. For Shawn, it starts in Vegas, goes to Arizona, ends up in Colorado, hit up Winnipeg, and end in Nashville. And for me, I'd start in New York at Madison Square Garden, go over to Pittsburgh, head out to Minnesota. I'd also hit Winnipeg, and I would end in Vegas, and Shawn would start. So maybe I would start my 5-game road trip, tag you in, and you start your 5-game road trip. And if you want to fund these 5-game road trips, you can just send us money. I mean, all the people that have bought the exclusive video feed for $129.99 for 30 minutes, they've really contributed nicely. But if anybody else,
for those of you who purchased TC's private feed, we do apologize. It's been banned in 16 states.
That would be someone. I mean, I know people have done the 31 games in however many days. It'd probably take a couple months to do that at least.
Yeah.
But someone needs to video it. There's nothing on YouTube that I've seen of someone doing that. But someone needs to video it, and just how tough it would be. So I'm willing to do that for anyone who wants to sponsor me in such an activity.
NHL.com.
Yeah.
Hit us up. We'll travel around and go to the arenas and eat your food and buy a jersey while we're there. And
maybe there's a business that wants me to wear their shirt and hat to every single game. I would do that if you want to get me to every single arena. So that's what we'll do. Before we go here, going on hockeyjerseyconcepts.com right now, we have the Quebec Nordiques unused logo redesign competition, and entries for that are due March 22nd. And we also have the top 3 vote going on for the Montreal Maroons redesign, and that vote ends March 15th. So be sure to head over to hockeyjerseyconcepts.com right now to engage in all those crazy activities that we have there. That's all we have for you this week. I'd like to thank my co-host Shawn for being on this week. To stay up to date with all of our podcasts, be sure to subscribe to the HJC Podcast Network to get notifications when Fake or Authentic comes out every Thursday and when Throwback Throwdown comes out every Saturday. Thank you to all the Jersey Nerds for listening. Goodbye, everybody.